slow, live it up, watching time go. Planning moves, things solid to this cheat code. Get your money, make it big, fuck being broke. Get your money, make it big, fuck being broke. Live slow, live it up, watching time go. Making moves, things solid to this cheat code. Get your money, make it big, fuck being broke. Get your money, make it big, fuck being broke. This how it is, the mission's Benjamins. And fuck the drama and the bullshit, we ain't little kids. My circle small, but my riders heart, they never quit. Get your money, keep it gangster, solid, straight legit. Never switch like the real ones that die for this. It's fucked up, but this is truly how it is. I hope you're ready if you're picking this like full of sin. No turning back, I represent my Vario to the end. Fuck the fakes and the snakes and everyone that hates. I'm not phased, I won't break, bitch, I'll never.
You are now watching M.O.D. Entertainment.
What's good, G-Life? Now this right here is LA County, Los Angeles. Los Angeles, very notorious area, home of, thousands of gangs, between blacks, Asian, whites, Hispanics. You have a lot of sets, around these areas. And with so many different sets, that, have conflicts, in different groups, different races. And even though these races here have conflicts with each other, it comes to find out that there is some sets that actually share the same name that are different races. You do have neighborhoods that share names with black neighborhoods, Crips and Bloods. Like I said, with so many gangs, of course, the area is vast. But you're going to get some overlaps in names, you know what I mean? Due to the fact that we are all coming from the struggle, the same area, you know what I mean? So it's bound to happen that there's going to be similarity in names. And today we'll be covering, several Hispanic neighborhoods and black neighborhoods that have the same name. And with no further ado, let's get into it. All right, so starting off, we'll be heading to the area that is known as Watts, California. Watts being a very notorious area, very infamous, home of the Watts riots and home of a lot of gangs, it definitely be cracking in Watts. And one of the neighborhoods that you have here in Watts is the neighborhood TLGC. TLGC translating to 10-lane Gangster Crips. Now, the 10-lane Gangster Crips are also known as the 110th Street Gangster Crips. That's why it's called 10 lanes, for 110th Street. So for the 10th is the reason why they're known as the 10-lane Gangster Crips, because of 110th Street. That's their main domain where they're at. And they are affiliated to the Gangster card. You know what I mean? That's why they write, Gangster Crips. Now, they're a small, black neighborhood right here, located on the east of Watts in the neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. Now, they represent 110th Street and associate themselves with the blocks around between Wilmington and Mona Boulevard. Now, the 10-lane Gangster Crips, have clicas, they have cliques, kind of like, Hispanic neighborhoods do, same thing right here. They have the DEs, which translates to the dead ends, and then you have the TS that translates to the track side, due to the, the train tracks that are right there, the metro tracks, and then the dead end, obviously, because in the blocks where they're at, it's dead end, one way in, one way, no way out. Pretty much. And then you have the LDB, which is the Lou Dillon Boys, obviously for the area. Now they're pretty cool with other neighborhoods around the area, like the Fudgetown Mafia Crips, the Backstreet Walk Crips, the Hard Time Hustler Crips, the Broadways. They tend to feud more with like the PJ Walk Crips, the Grape Street Watts, the Neighborhood Crips, the Front Street Walk Crips, and like the Bounty Hunter Bloods, obviously the Hacienda Village Bloods, Compton Pyrus and all of that shit. It definitely be cracking. But if there's one thing that I have noticed, it seems the relationship between them and Hispanics is pretty, pretty good around this area. It seems like there's no pedo between them and like Hispanic neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Issues, within the area. It seems like they got a pretty good bond, with the Hispanics in that area. But like I said, this neighborhood definitely holds their own. They're still right here holding it down for the 10-lane Gangster Crips and still putting theirs on the map. Now, to find a Hispanic neighborhood with the same name, we don't actually have to travel anywhere. You know what I mean? Because it's located right here in the same area, just on the opposite end. It's where you're able to find the DLW neighborhood. Now, the DLW neighborhood translates to 10 lane watts. And I'm not even making that up. 10 lanes watts. So it is essentially the same exact name, just in Spanish. But they don't always just write it in Spanish. Sometimes they do write, 10 lane watts. You know what I mean? So you can see it up as 10 lane watts or 10 lane watts. Or sometimes they just write the number 10. You know what I mean? There's different ways of writing it. But it translates to, of course, to 110th Street. So the 10 lane watts neighborhood, it's right here because of 110th Street, and they have the tribute party. They have a really good connection with the 10 lane Gangster Crips. It seems like they even go riding together sometimes. They kick it together. It seems like they have a pretty good relationship with each other. You know what I mean? There's no beefs. You know what I mean? The same common enemy, the same area. So you'd rather be cool with your neighbor than have them as your enemies. In my opinion. So yes, this is the same name, just one's in Spanish, one is in English. That's why people sometimes think that it's the same neighborhood, just that maybe their Mexican homeboys say it that way. No, they're actually two different gangs. It's just that one is in Spanish and one is English, but sometimes they do say it in English as well. So you do get that confusion, and they are in the same area. And like I said, sometimes they ride together and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, they share the same area, and they have always, had a pretty good bond. That's what I say, that not all the parts in Los Angeles are going to have Hispanic gangs that feud heavily with black gangs. They could coexist. It's not about race. It's literally about gangs. You know what I mean? It's one gang feuding with another gang. That's always been the issues with, blacks and browns in Los Angeles. It's over gangs. It's never over, race. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, the 10 lane Watts neighborhood is a real neighborhood that has been already right here, and it's a small neighborhood. At least from what I was told, is there roughly no more than 35 members to this neighborhood, so roughly a small neighborhood, and it hasn't been around that long. At least from what I was told, as they were up since the mid 90s when this neighborhood was established, and they continue to represent for theirs and hold it down. Now, I was told that it did start off as a crew, but then some homies say it wasn't, so take from what you want out of that. But either way, this is a real neighborhood. That is what it stands for. They still hold it down. Now, another neighborhood that you have here in the area of Watts. For this, we actually have to head down to the east side of Watts, where we're able to find the neighborhood that is known as the Nut Hood Watts Crips. The Nut Hood Watts Crips is a real neighborhood that often people forget about, but this is a real set that has been right here for a cool minute. A real neighborhood, you know what I mean? A real Crip set. I know when people, bust roll calls of Watts neighborhoods, I see that this neighborhood often gets forgotten, and the Hat Crips, which I never understood, because they are real neighborhoods that you can see their activity and graffiti, and you can still, they still active and keeping it popping. I think people, just, tend to hate sometimes, but it is what it is, because this is a real Crip set with real motherfuckers that do real things for their neighborhood. And their neighborhood is right here. It's located on the east of Watts by the Imperial Courts housing projects, is where you're able to find, the Nut Hood Watts Crips. And they do have several cliques, you know what I mean? Because they have the 108th Street, 109th Street, 110th Street, 111th Street. So you know what I mean? They do have, several cliques, from them. So it's not just like, that they're just a small gang. They're just located in just like this little pocket right here. Nah, you have them, branched out to different locations, different streets. That's why they even have different cliques, because at least from what I was told is that this neighborhood is roughly more than 80 members, to it. At least from what I was told. And they're a real motherfucking neighborhood that handles real things right there, you know what I mean? These guys ain't no suckers, but this is a real neighborhood right here in Watts that be holding it down for the Crip card and still putting theirs on the map, but that's what's up with the Nut Hood Watts Crips right there. Now, to find the Homeboy neighborhood, we don't have to go nowhere. It is located here in the same area. Now, this neighborhood is known as the NHW. NHW translated to Nut Hood Watts. Nut Hood Watts is a real Hispanic gang that has already been right here and established since the 80s. And they were a decent size. They're not small. They're not big. They're a decent size because at least from what I was told is that they're roughly a few hundred members to this neighborhood, located in the same area right there as the Nut Hood Watt Crips, just in different locations. Some people said that at one point it was the same neighborhood, but that it split, kind of like what happened to Grape Street. Some say that that they just happen to have the same name, but they're different neighborhoods. So take what you want from it. Some people just like to, I guess not accept, the true roots to it. So you get different versions of stories. It happens with so many different neighborhoods just because, their pride gets in the way or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not from those neighborhoods to say, which side is lying, you know what I'm saying? I'm just going based on what they told me, you know what I mean? But there's no beef between them, you know what I mean? But they don't have like a close alliance like the 10 lanes do with the DS lanes, but they could coexist, you know what I mean, within the area. Like I said, you're gonna have pockets of Los Angeles where, Crips and Hispanics just, seem to have, beef and feuds. But then you get other pockets where they're able to coexist, fine, with no problem, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's always a gang issue, it's never a race issue. I do get it that these people that come from these areas where they beef it with these groups heavily will like to, I guess maybe they've been feuding for so long that they maybe see it that way. But in reality, that is not how it is. You know what I mean? I think that they've been fighting for so long that they kind of forgot that it's over gangs and not over skin colors. Just because the feud has been going on for so long. But the Nut Hood Watts Vario is a real Vario that has been right here doing their thing, you know what I mean? Because I got homies, out of this neighborhood, Shout out to my homie Sparky and Scrappy, from this neighborhood. And get at me, my boy, I changed my number. You know what I'm saying? Because I know you be watching my videos, so, hit a homie up. But yeah, this is a real neighborhood that does real things and still be holding it down for their set and putting theirs on the map. But that's what's up with the Nut Hood Watts right there. Now, to find the next neighborhood on the list, we actually have to make our way to the area of Compton, which is not even far, which is the city just right next over. You know what I mean? Compton, the hub, is an area where you're able to find the next black neighborhood on the list. This one is different because this is a Pyrus, so it's not a Crip set, this one. You know what I mean? For this one, we actually have to make our way to the area that is known as Elm Street. Elm Street is where we're able to find the next set on the list, which is the ESP neighborhood, which translates to Elm Street Pyrus. The Elm Street Pyrus is a neighborhood right here in Compton that was started roughly around the 1980s, 84, 83, roughly around that time frame that this neighborhood was established. The Elm Street Pyrus, or also known as the Elm Lane Mafia, or the East Side Pyrus, or the Elm Street Mob. They have different ways of writing it. You know what I mean? They have different sayings for it because it is also known as a Nightmare Gang. Because you obviously you get it because it's Elm Street, and Nightmare on Elm Street, so it's known as the Nightmare Gang. And it's funny because, with their Hispanic counterpart, that's one thing that they share in common because they both, call themselves the Nightmare Gang. And the Elm Street Pyrus is a neighborhood that's located on the east side of Compton. Now, they sport the color red, obviously, like the Pyrus, and they also use the color burgundy. So they use burgundy and red, you know what I mean? And they also tend to write the phrase 356, 356% on the graffiti, their slang. 356 is obviously the number on when you dial it on the phone. It spells Elm. So that's why they, you see the graffiti, for those who be asking, like, what are the numbers for and stuff like that. That's, why they do it. And they do have, like, several, like, cliques as well. You know what I mean? They're broken up into cliques. Like, you have the 700 block of Poinsettia Avenue. I think that's the name of the street. Then you have the 1000 block of Mayo Avenue, and then you have the 700 block of Boris Avenue. Then you have the 1000 block of Sloan Avenue. Then you have the 1000 block of Kemp Avenue. So that is how they're broken up. They're in through those avenues and streets, as cliques. To show the area that is considered their territory and where they hang out. You know what I mean? So That is why you get, like sometimes with the graffiti, you see it, all these different numbers and streets and everything like that. There'll be clicks off of that neighborhood, showing, each part of their location where they hang out. It's very common within, California gangs, to have cliques, and each clique is known to roam around certain areas and etc. Stuff like that. You know what I mean? And they're close by, a lot of, several gangs like the Cedar Block Pyrus, in which the rapper The Game is from. They're close to the Treetop Pyrus too, where DJ Quick and, YG, and then you have the Fruit Town Pyrus and the West Side Pyrus. They're pretty cool with all the Pyrus, right there, in Compton. But they tend to feud more with like the east side of Compton, like what's, like the Santana Block Compton Crips, the Palm and Oaks Gangster Crips, the Kelly Park Gangster Crips, the Southside, Compton Crips. They beef it with Hispanic gangs too. Like they beef it with like the 70s. They beef it with Compton Vario Tortilla Flats. And Hispanic gangs like that within the area. And fun fact, this is the neighborhood in which the rapper Second to None, he's affiliated to the Elm Street Pyrus. I'm pretty sure people, heard of his music and stuff like that. And like I said, this is a real neighborhood right here in Compton that does real things. They're well known and pretty large, but that's what's up with the Elm Street Pyrus right there. Now, to find their counterpart, we actually have to travel back to Watts. And in Watts is where we're able to find, the next neighborhood on the list, which is the Vario, Elm Street Watts. Yes, Vario Elm Street Watts is a real gang, real Hispanic gang that's well known within the Watts area. It's one of the neighborhoods when you think about the area of Watts, it's one of the neighborhoods that comes into mind. You know what I'm saying? These guys are pretty notorious for doing their thing. You know what I'm saying? Now, they're located on Elm Street. Now this neighborhood is an old school neighborhood. When I say old school, it's old school. It's been around since the 1960s. Some even say before that. So that already gives you, that's already a long, long time right there. You know what I mean? That they've been right there on Elm Street, between Bandera Street and Fair Avenue from Firestone and 92nd Street. So all that area is what's considered their barrio. You know what I mean? And it's been chaos and conflicts right here. Because, they have, definitely heavy feud with the Watts Vario Grape. There's been heavy bloodshed between, these gangs. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely been popping, and with the Florencia neighborhood, you know what I mean? There's heavy, conflict and animosity between these groups. So this area of Watts is very notorious, for the gunplay with several casualties, within this area. Because Elm Street Watts is, they may not be as big as like the Grape Streets or the Florence, but they handle their business, homie. These guys ain't no suckers. They definitely do their thing. And at least from what I was told, this neighborhood is roughly more than that. There's several hundred members, so they're not too big, but they're not too small. They're an average size barrio. So you hear about them. They handle their thing. You know what I mean? These guys ain't no suckers. They've been doing it and been holding it down for theirs. You know what I mean? And like I said, there's no tensions between them and the other Elm Street neighborhood, the Pyrus. You know what I mean? One's in Compton, one's in Watts. They don't seem to mind. And they both, refer to themselves as the Nightmare Gang, because even this Elm Street uses the Nightmare saying as well, for Nightmare on Elm Street. And that's what's up with the Elm Street Watts right there, holding it down for the homeboys and still putting theirs on the map.
Thank you for watching M.O.D Entertainment. Make sure you like and subscribe.